my camera is fine. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depends the part of the world you're joining us. I remember Mazi Chika Austin. And of course, we have some couple of things we want to talk about this very moment. But we are going to center our discussion on regional development in respect to what is happening in Sahel and things happening within the ECOWAS sub-region. So these are areas we are going to leverage our discussion, or should I say, talks on this very moment. So this is the place we are going to leverage on this very moment. A lot of things have been happening for some time now, and there have been an effort to suppress information as regards to the regional development, or should I say sub-regional development, as the case may be. There have been an attempted effort in futility to suppress people understanding what is going on, people being acquainted to the developments going on. There have been, some efforts to get that off mainstream, or should I say, within the confinity of the public awareness. But as the case may be, it is a public discussion, and the individual and the corporate opinions will definitely be, coming in, so nobody can, get that stopped. So I want to talk about, the issues going on in Sahel, as is also going on in ECOWAS sub-region. It will interest you to know that prior to this time, we wouldn't have been talking about these entities from different perspectives. We wouldn't have been talking about Sahel and ECOWAS, as a different entities. Prior to this time, we would have been talking about them as ECOWAS sub-region mainly. But since the coup of 2022 that really struck most parts of ECOWAS member states, we are able to see that there have been an obvious disintegration. Yes, the regional bloc, or should I say the sub-regional bloc, being ECOWAS, have been so much disintegrated, so much reduced to what she used to be in terms of numerical and geographical circulation to what it is today. And she's also facing further balkanization. Further balkanizations are there. The third coup in Benin happens to be the most recent attempt to balkanize ECOWAS. So nobody knows where is going to struck. Nobody knows where. But one thing people should understand is this: the issue of coup d'etat in ECOWAS sub-region is not yet over. Is not yet over. We must understand that. And that is the reason why they are gathering in Abuja today. That is the reason why they are threatening of deployment of the bloc force, military force. And that is the reason why Nigerian C-13, if I'm not mistaken, is trapped in Burkina Faso. That is the reason why there is a regional tension. Those who find themselves within the divide of democracy seem to be losing support, not just at the level of leadership, even at the level of followership. There seems to be this disconnection between the democratic states in ECOWAS, I'm talking about democratic countries in ECOWAS, there seems to be an obvious disconnection between leadership and followership. The reason being that, factually speaking, because it's very, very important that whatever we are talking about, we leverage to facts. It has been proven that the so-called Democrats in ECOWAS have hid under the umbrella of democracy to rob the people, to be worse than what military juntas could not even be. So people are beginning to question the value of democracy, because those who are piloting themselves as Democrats, proponents of democracy in the sub-region, seem to be criminals. They are undermining the rights of the people. When it comes to human rights record, you see high suppression of human rights under Democrats, the so-called Democrats. When you also see looting, claimatocracy, passion for stealing, it is just rampant among the so-called democratic states of ECOWAS. When you see this passion to serve the imperialist powers, it is commonly found amongst those who call themselves Democrats or democratic leaders amongst ECOWAS member states. So because of that, the citizens of ECOWAS sub-region seem to be open-minded to even military rule than democratic rule. Unarguably, democracy cannot be equated with military rule, unarguably in all its definition. But the truth remains, it doesn't matter how beautiful a car is. The driver will determine if the car can give you its luxurious and smooth features. When a driver has, the wrong understanding of operation, definitely the vehicle, it doesn't matter the aesthetic features, technological impulse, the vehicle will look horrible to be ride on. That's exactly what is happening within the ECOWAS sub-region. Individuals, the democratic states of ECOWAS, individuals who are supposed to have replicated and marketed democracy within the member states of ECOWAS, have ended up turning democracy to be a mockery, to be one of those things nobody could even think of desiring. Instead of them to uphold rule of law, instead of them to uphold, human rights, instead of them to uphold all the tenets and benefits of democracy, they have ended up abusing it. And that's why it seems as if there is a wind of coup within the sub-region. That's why you see them panicking. All of them are gathered in Abuja as I speak to you. The leaders of ECOWAS, they are gathered in Abuja, of course, to also have coffee and give a joint press statement. That's where it ends. It's not about rhetorics. It's not about repetition, reiteration of issues. What have they done for West Africans to cherish democracy above military rule? They have not done anything practical. There's absolutely nothing practical they have done. In fact, most of them in some of these member states of ECOWAS, those claiming they are operating democracy, you see high level of human rights abuses. That people begin to ask, is this democracy? When it comes to the process of franchise, the right to vote and to be voted for, when it comes to the electoral period. Look at what is happening in Ivory Coast. The man is having his fourth tenure. Some of them will end up amending the constitution. When the constitution says do 2 sittings and leave, after the 2 sittings, they will influence the legislative arms of their respective countries and amend the constitution to pave way for them to also recontest, contrary to what the constitution says earlier. And you're telling me that that is democracy. It's happening in all these places. Go to Benin Republic, go to Ivory Coast, go to some of them. The same thing that accused the juntas. In fact, the juntas seem to be more honorable because they know they are juntas. They know they are, military leaders. They are not hiding. But what of those people who say they are Democrats, but they end up turning the constitution, undermining the constitution? The social charter that ought to bring decency in the society, they undermine it. And why would military rule not have a whole lot of support in the sub-region? So let us now look at some of the issues, because whether we accept it or not, West Africa is experiencing a lot of changes. It doesn't matter the configuration at which you will give it. It doesn't matter how you want to interpret it. One thing is obvious. There is a wind of change going on in West Africa sub-region. There is a very serious wind of change. And let me tell you, if you care to know, there is no region that have experienced what is going on in West Africa that remains the same. I repeat, there is absolutely no region or sub-region that had experienced what is going on in West Africa currently that remains the same. I can give you instance. When the same thing happened in, Southeast Asia, when it happened in Asia region, in 50s, this thing you see happening today in West Africa had happened in so many regions, and there was demographical change. There were geographical changes. There were a lot of changes. When it happened in Asia, we saw the end of the old Korea. The old Korea ended. When it happened in Asia, we also saw almost the disintegration of Vietnam. The Vietnam society almost lost its original permutation between North and South. The same thing, for your information, when it also struck in East Africa, we saw what happened. Eritrea and Ethiopia. We also saw what happened in South Sudan and North Sudan. What is this thing that we are talking about? We are talking about wherever there is a high foreign interest within a region, that region does not remain the same. And for your information, West Africa is not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same. It could have been better averted than to say it has started and somebody think the primordial condition will still, or the status quo, the earlier status quo is still going to be maintained. It could have been better that it never started in West Africa. It could have been better that West Africans were not divided on pro-Russians and pro-West, or should I say pro-Russians and pro-France. It could have been better that the people of West Africa never tested that urge and hunger. It could have been better that the people of West Africa were not even divided on the ground of we are for Russians and we are for France. It could have been better such a thing never happened than now it happened. Then somebody will think that West Africa sub-region is going to remain the same. It's not going to remain the same. A lot of countries in West Africa are going to be balkanized. A lot of countries will be pieces. Because there is no, we are talking about historical knowledge. There is nowhere such a thing had happened in the time past that the geography and demography of that place remains the way it was. There is absolutely no place. I stand to be corrected. I can give you so many instances. It is better it never started than for you to think you can mitigate it. You cannot mitigate anything. You can see within a short period of less than 5 years, the demography, the geography of ECOWAS is already reshaped. ECOWAS is not what it used to be again. And it's going to transcend from the level of regional bloc to country, to state actors, demography and geography. That is how it works. Because West Africa is ideologically divided. As I speak to you, West Africa is not deeply divided. There are proponents of Russia, and the proponents of Russia are not Democrats. Even there are also so-called democratic states within the sub-region that are also cruising towards Russia. That's why they say they are democratic entities. They are also cruising towards Russia. Now, let me tell you why the situation is going to be a very difficult one. The reason why we speak this under is important. We also appreciate the fact that some of us in the quest for the restoration of Biafra, earlier before now, we have married so much the knowledge embedded in geopolitics. Earlier before now, we have what people seem to be interested discussing now. We have crossed that level. Because earlier before now, we have been so much acquainted with the issue of geopolitics. So it's not new because we have developed passion. What people are discussing, aircraft, this, aircraft, they are just discussing, most Nigerians are discussing it from peripheral point of view. Just, aircraft is seized, soldiers are seized. That is the level they can discuss it. They cannot make inference. They cannot make predictive analysis towards where everything is landing. And that is where we have an edge. Every single one of us in the quest for self-determination, we have an edge because we have, for the past 1 decade, we have been forcing our minds to be widening towards the scope of this reality that we are seeing today, which people are just talking at peripheral levels. So now, why the whole situation is going to be difficult, I'm going to tell you something that's going to worry you. It's going to give you a kind of a disturbing concern, because I understand, to the best of my knowledge, people from different backgrounds are here watching this program, and I also have people from the Francophonian region who also follow. So we are going to try as much as possible to be objective in our analysis, not really being subjective. So on that note, on that very consideration, we are going to try as much as we can to achieve a relative objectivity in our analysis. Now, let me tell you why the whole situation is going to be difficult. You see, what happened in Sahel, especially Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, the taking over of government and the subsequent formation of federating unit, was really, really a soft war against French. When these guys took over the government of their respective countries, I'm talking about the tripartite entities, Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso, there was something that happened. Immediately they took over. They moved towards forming confederation. Confederation in terms of economic and military confederation. The confederation was not necessarily political because they did not have any central president. But they formed a confederation that anchored on economy, having a common market. Secondly, having a common military formation. Now, why did they form that confederation? The confederation was not formed for any other power within the region other than Nigeria. It's going to shock you. Because at that very time, if they had existed at individual states, none of them has what it takes at individual capacity to stop Nigeria. None of them. Because if you put all of them together, we are talking about 56 million people against about 200 million people. You can see the margin. So when they formed that common front, the next thing they did that is quite amazing was to form a central air defense system, which means they now have a common territorial integrity. If you violate Niger's airspace, it is seen that you have violated that of Mali, Burkina Faso. So they had now a common territory within their own interpretation of what that integrational project was all about. So because of that, their population moved from maybe 30, 20 million to 70-something million people. And when that happened, they had successfully stepped up their capability from horrible situation it used to be to a relatively sustainable population. Because apart from Nigeria, apart from Nigeria and West Africa, they are the next big powers when it talks about demography, military demography. Apart from Nigeria, they are the next in terms of military demography. And they started building up technology. Now, to prove to those who would have mocked them, to prove to those who would have said, oh, you left France and look at how horrible you are today. To prove them wrong, they took a hostile economic policies, which nobody dares implement that under the supervision of the imperialist powers. You can't do that. For instance, can Nigeria operate refinery? Nigeria as a country, can Nigeria operate refinery? Is a difficult thing. Do you think because it's not possible? It's possible. Why? Because of the imperial powers controlling Nigeria. You cannot do that. Even when Dangote did that, Dangote almost lost his life. So what these guys did, they now got another power backup, which is Russia, and started building refinery for mining of gold, for refining gold, refining uranium. These are raw materials that were shipped overseas at a very cheap price. They just extract them and ship it to France, ship it to members of European states, who refine it and return it back to them in exorbitant price. So what these guys did, they began to build refineries to not just only extract these raw materials. When they extract it, they also process it in their homeland. And look at the amazing thing. Because they are processing it in their homeland, they started creating jobs for their indigenous. And because they remember these refineries they built are built by Russians. And because their people are part of the building process, they are exposed to technology. That is how technological transfer happens. When foreigners are operating in your society and employ some of your people, they start learning one or two things, how these things are being done. And because of what these guys are doing, France is now afraid. Listen and listen very carefully. France is now afraid that people in other countries that are not yet liberated, that they are going to be saying, oh, look at what is happening in Burkina Faso. Look at what is happening in Niger. Look at what is happening in so-so place and so-so place. Let us also have a military kind of government in Senegal, in Ivory Coast, in Benin Republic. Why? Because people of those places are now saying, oh, so you mean the military could take over Burkina Faso, and look at what is happening in Burkina Faso. You mean Burkina Faso can now be talking about building a refinery for uranium, for gold? Niger could as well be doing the same thing. In Mali, the same thing is happening. We want the same thing in our soil. So that is the fear of France. That is what France is afraid of. That because of what is recorded, what is happening, success can be spillover. Just like failure can also be spillover. So France is now worried. Now, France now realized, listen very carefully, that she's already having a high resentment. Hatred against France is high in the region. Prior to this time, France does not intend having a strong footprint in Nigeria. Nigeria, it was Britain that was having a strong footprint, not even France. France was not much interested in Nigeria because Nigeria is more of Anglophonian grip than Francophonian grip. So what then happened is this. France now began to come to the realization that with what is going on, definitely the entire Francophonian states are going to fall under the military. And when you say fall under the military rule, you're technically saying are going to fall under Russian control. And France felt it is a disturbing thing. So what did France say? France said, okay, let me see a bigger power I can get close to, because Nigeria is only the largest entity within this region that can help me police these guys. Because Benin Republic cannot police the region effectively. Ivory Coast cannot police the region effectively for France. Not even Ghana can police it if France wishes. So France needed a big entity, a big power to help her police the region. Stop these guys from expanding. Stop these pro-Russian fellows from expanding. And that was how France lobbied herself to Tinubu's government. Now, ordinarily, Tinubu government wouldn't have, embraced France. Ordinarily, Tinubu government wouldn't have embraced France. But there are factors, domestic factors that played in Nigeria that led to Tinubu's government embracing France. Because ordinarily, every Nigerian government tend to be more close to Britain because of colonial history, because of colonial antecedents. But the reason why Tinubu opened his arms to hug France is because Tinubu was afraid that Britain, being a pro-Fulani entity, that Britain can undermine his government in order to make the Fulanis happy. Tinubu was skeptical. Tinubu was afraid. And Tinubu could not push on the side of US because of some of the alleged controversial records he has in US. So it will be a very difficult thing for him to push. And coupled to the fact that the current US government is not open for some deals, give and take attitude. The vocality of current US government can be undermining for the likes of Tinubu and the rest of them. So, and Tinubu, on the other hand, is afraid that how far can he trust Britain? Because Britain already runs Nigeria with Fulani. Because Britain understands that whatever she wants, the Fulani can offer it for them in Nigeria. So Tinubu now felt, let me go close to France. Perhaps France, after all, remember, historically speaking, France never believed in united Nigeria. I want you to take note on that. France supported the Biafran people diplomatically, militarily, and otherwise until the latter end of the war, when it was obvious that a lot of world powers have backed Nigeria. That was when France made a U-turn. But France helped to mobilize the Francophonian countries who recognized Biafra. It was France's deal. So the Fulanis don't like France for whatever reason, because of the age-long relationship between France and the Biafran people. So they believe that France doesn't believe in united Nigeria. And it will also interest you that Tinubu also need France, because if Nigeria gets to worst, you can talk about greater Oduduwa entity. France can help the Oduduwa people to form a federating unit with the Benin Republic. France can help to cement that if need arises. So Tinubu also need France to get that done. So when France now came in, France felt that, okay, what I'm going to do is this. Let Nigeria help me and the police these guys from Sahel, from expanding, let Nigeria help me from stopping Russian expansion on the region. And of course, France did a lot of assistance, logistically and otherwise. France deepened into Nigerian system to a point, as I speak to you, Nigeria and France are jointly managing Nigerian tax system. Although the Arewa people have just released a press statement kicking against that. They say it undermines Nigeria's sovereignty. That is Arewa people. But Tinubu needs France to consolidate. Tinubu needs France to also have a greater Oduduwa entity if need arises. When we talk about greater Oduduwa entity, we are talking about Benin joining with the entire Yoruba to form a bigger nation. Because forget when people tell you Nigeria can be disintegrated, all those things. Down in their heart, they know that everything is possible. There is no country on the surface of the earth. What keeps country united is not the leadership, it's the followership. When the followers disagree, it's a matter of time. The leadership will be configured to that reality. And that's why the leadership will always be preaching, oh, let us unite, let us unite, let us unite, let us unite. So what am I trying to say? You know, now with the issue that is going on, remember, France wants to protect her interests. France does not want some of the outstanding countries under her control to slide to the Russians. And the current American government is not also interested to help France recuperate. That is what it is. Because the current American government believes that France is sabotaging her move between Ukraine and Russia. Trump is desperate to be crowned a prince of peace by broken out peace between Russia and Ukraine. But France, Germany, and even Britain are frustrating that move. And to the current American government, whatever that will make France to bleed, they will support it. Including France losing her entities in Africa. That's all these things. Do you see America condemn the failed coup? Did they bother America? Did America care? America believes it's a payback time for what France is doing to her in her attempt to bring peace between Russia and Ukraine. In fact, as a matter of fact, current American leadership is asking for dissolution of EU, European Union. A leak memo shows that they want to buy Italy, Poland, and one other two countries out of EU. They are pressuring them to say they are not going to be in EU. So that EU, they want to get some key players in EU so that EU will collapse naturally. As a payback to European Union and Britain frustration against Americans' move in between Russia and Ukraine. Because Europeans, including France, Britain, are making sure that Zelensky does not accept the peace proposal presented by the US. They say it's an appeasement to Russia. And America on her own side, or on their own side, Americans on their own side, believe that them achieving that peace in that region is a heroic outing. So you understand what is happening. So that is why America tend to be more neutral with the mess France is going on in West Africa. Now, we now find France believing that Nigeria can do for her what she wants effectively in West Africa. And that is where we are today. And is Nigeria ready to play that role? Yes, Nigeria is ready to play that role. Is Nigeria going to effectively achieve that interest? That is where the difficulty lies. That is where the difficulty lies. Because as I speak to you, it takes a very strong national cohesion for a country to achieve effective foreign policy. It takes a national cohesion, which Nigeria does not have that national cohesion. It doesn't exist. If anybody is talking about United Nigeria, is talking on mere expression. It's a horse. The practical existentiality of what unity is all about is an illusion. It's a pure illusion. And that is why even the federal government is finding it difficult to update Nigerians with the events going on between her and Burkina Faso, or should I say the AES member states. Do you know why? Because the Nigerian government is even afraid that her citizens will mock her. So the best thing is to quietly see what they can do. I'm telling you. So that is the difficulty here. That is the pure difficulty we are talking about. So Nigeria achieving that which France want her to achieve will be a very difficult thing. Difficult in terms of national cohesion, because a country needs national cohesion to achieve an effective footprint, foreign footprint. You need that national cohesion. When it's not there, it's not there. There's nothing you can do about it. It goes beyond vituperations. It goes beyond press statement. If it's not there, it's not there. And that is the difficulties now. Now, if you look at the conflict, the aircraft, the C-13 conflict and all the rest of them, you would understand that it has turned to a Cold War. Most of you do not understand what Burkina Faso, or at large, let me say, AES, the Alliance for Sahel Confederation. You do not understand what they want to achieve. Let me tell you, before now, before they take the coup in this region, Nigeria used to effectively penetrate any of the airspace. What Nigeria needs to do is to tell you that they're in your airspace. And there's nothing, you cooperate, because she's the big guy in the region. And as a matter of fact, she also subsidized some of these countries, their electricity, their energy sector, and all the rest of them. Nigeria does subsidy on them. When I mean subsidize, Nigeria supplies electricity to some of them without even caring if they pay or not. Supply petroleum. You can remember during Buhari's time, most of the official vehicles that were used in Niger by the ousted leadership and the subsequent one before the coup were being supplied by Nigeria. Buhari time was building rail line, even entering Niger to also build for them. That is how much Nigeria's subsidized lives in those places. And because of those subsidies, Nigeria had access to their airspace, their land space. Nigeria soldier could enter Niger and also come out unperturbed. Sorry, I discovered Facebook obstruction. I don't know if we're still here. So that we can... Okay, we are back. So that was exactly what was going on. If you look at some of these histories, they are on public access anyway. So Nigeria was subsidizing these entities. Nigeria was, also having access to wherever she wants to have access. Nigeria could as well penetrate their, their space, their land space, and all the rest of them. Because of the brotherly, or should I say big sister role she was playing in terms of the economy, in terms of energy, in terms of all the rest of them. So that long evolution, that, years of, we can enter here, we have influence, we are the biggest people in the society, in the region, we can decide what happens, we can get away with whatever we want to get away with, That age-long culture is what these guys are trying to use the aircraft to remake in the mind of Nigerians. It's a soft power. It's a soft war that is going on. Very soft, but really, really penetrating. They just want to let Nigeria and by extension France to know, look, if Nigeria is big, Nigeria should be big within her territorial integrity. If Nigeria is a if Nigeria is a version of America in this region, Nigeria should just do it honorably within her defined boundaries. And that is what it is. I read what Minister of Foreign Affairs said, and it's important. Let me see if I can read it out. This is a latest update from Minister of Foreign Affairs in respect to the issue. Let me see how many hours we have done. We have done 45 minutes. We'll soon be rounding up. Okay, let me show you. Let me read out what Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs says. Okay, he said, this is what they said, based on Vanguard report, few minutes ago. He said, we are engaging them, but they are yet to be released. This is Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs. And the spokesperson, Biafra, said, that is the name of the man. He said further details on the circumstances surrendering the detention were not disclosed as diplomatic efforts continue. Now, let me tell you something you have to understand in the whole development. You see, first of all, Nigeria does not recognize the government in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and in Niger. Nigeria does not recognize them. That is first of all. And in diplomacy, you don't directly engage in an entity you do not recognize. That is how it is. That is how it happens. So when you don't recognize a country government, a particular government or a country, for instance, Iran does not recognize the state of Israel. If there is anything happening between Iran and Israel and Israel cannot have a direct discussion. It negates the principle of international politics and diplomacy. They cannot have a direct discussion. Because if they should have a direct discussion, what that implies that recognition has happened. That is what it means. So in the case of Nigeria and these guys, Nigeria does not have what it takes diplomatically to have a direct discussion with them, because Nigeria does not recognize the governments in AES, the Sahel region. So what that implies currently is that there are member states of ECOWAS that recognize, even though they have not officially recognized them, there are certain level of relationship they maintain with them. For instance, Ghana. Yes, Ghana have certain level of relationship. That's why the Ghanaian, during the time of inauguration of current Ghanaian president, he even invited the president of Burkina Faso. That means Ghana cannot serve as child affair. There's what we call child affair. Because Nigeria cannot send ambassador to them. Neither can they send ambassador to Nigeria. There's no such thing as bilateral relationship existing. So Nigeria can now use Ghana or Ivory Coast to plead. But the difficulty here is, these guys are saying, listen and listen very carefully, that there is no how we can talk about the releasing of your jet. There is no how we can talk about releasing of your soldiers when we have not first of all come in tandem, in agreement that this is a violation of our territorial integrity. Because in the case of Nigeria, and that is also the difficulty Nigeria is having between them and America. And I will also reiterate it here that there is no how Nigerian government and the American government will work in synergy over the insecurity in Nigeria when two of them are still arguing on Christian genocide or no Christian genocide. Nigeria is insisting it's not a Christian genocide. Even Tinubu has reiterated it. And America on their own side is saying it is a Christian genocide. So for them to start working together, forget the media deceptions you're hearing. Oh, America and Nigeria are almost finalizing. Forget it. There is no finalization that can happen without, first of all, having a consensus on problem identification, what the problem is. What we are talking about is a diplomatic realities. I'm not saying it's my theory. I'm not saying it's my postulations. I'm telling you what is obtainable as far as international politics is concerned, as far as diplomacy is concerned. And you must understand that. So, Burkina Faso is saying this is an incursion by another actor. And Nigeria is saying it is not an incursion. Rather, this is a technical fault which we sought for clearance and the clearance was given. So it might take them 6 months to find a common ground before you now talk about releasing. It is a sad situation that the soldiers who are held are the ones who are going to suffer the whatever time is going to take. So the two parties are going to, what they are going to first of all agree. Oh, are we going to adopt Nigerian position or are we going to adopt the holding entity position that there was a violation? And if there was, if Nigeria is saying, okay, and let me accept there's a violation, the next thing these guys are going to request from Nigeria is tender an apology. And you know what that means? A giant of Africa tendering apology. So it's a very complex situation. The sad thing is that even the handlers of this issue in Abuja are trying to downplay the severity of the situation. You know, they told you, don't worry, 48 hours, they are going to come up. Today, the whole conflict is sliding to 7 today, which is a week. And that is one funny thing I always say. You know, Nigerian politicians are expert in, they love doing everything secret. They thrive when there is dark setting, when there is darkness. That is where they thrive. So the saddest thing that has happened to Nigerian politicians is the fact that Nigeria is on the limelight of global stage. Because you cannot lie yourself away. You cannot hide yourself away. You cannot just do your local, things, You do your local thing the way you do it. Because this is a global stage. You can successfully do your thing, INEC thing, judiciary thing, your hidden stuff. But this is a global thing. And that's the difficulty. Because Nigerian politicians were not trained earlier in transparency, in openness. Yes. They have spent their years mastering how to lie to the people, how to reduce figure, or overhype figure, how to shy away from briefing people, press. They were trained for years. They are masters of this. And the international system does not condone this. That is a difficulty they are facing. And like in my own dialect, you don't start learning left hand at old age. That is a very difficult situation they find themselves. That is what it is. So the situation is Nigeria going to adjust to say, okay, we violated, we want to tender apology? Is Burkina Faso, and of course we are not talking about Burkina Faso here, we are talking about the Confederation, which comprises Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Is the Confederation going to say, okay, let's admit we seize it? And when you admit you seize it, that means you violated international aviation law, which arbitration can also fine the AES against Nigeria. So it's a very difficult thing. So as it is now, everybody in the region, let me tell you what is going on. Everybody in the region, what these guys have done, for these guys holding Nigeria, a giant of Africa soldiers, for 6 days, going to 1 week. Everybody, they have sent a strong signal within the region, within the sub-region, that there is a new sheriff in town. It's a soft message they have sent. That is why immediately all these things are happening. Immediately they brought the aircraft down and confiscated it. Ghana started doing military maneuvering. I don't know if you follow up. Ghana started showing her military parade, doing military parade. It is unplanned military parade, showing their capability. That is what Ghana did. Ivory Coast also did the same thing. As a matter of fact, also did the same thing. And of course, everybody within the region is now waking up to the reality that if you don't wake up, another person will wake you up. So that is how the region is today. And the danger of it now, for those of you, that's the last thing I say before I come to the closing. The situation, the reality situation here is that as it stands currently, every single block, whether AES, the Sahel group, or the what is left in ECOWAS, because ECOWAS, you cannot even be sure of how many are in ECOWAS. You know, the day breaks, you hear shocking news in ECOWAS. So, the whole thing, the future of the region, what the future of the region looks like currently is this. We are going to have what we have in Korea Peninsula. Is going to come to West Africa. Not is going to, it has already come to West Africa. The Korea Peninsula mood is going to come, is already in West Africa. What does that imply? What does that imply? The members of AES, the Sahel group, will do everything possible to weaken those on the side of ECOWAS in order not to see them being strong to challenge them. So, in a places like Nigeria, you cannot see some of these entities even supporting any group that wants to get out of Nigeria. Just to make sure you don't have a big country that France could use to intimidate them. So, in the next 3 years, in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years, you are going to be seeing a lot of support to those who are asking for self-determination, whether in Ghana, whether in Togo, whether in Nigeria, and all the rest of them. Because that is the dimension, the configuration the region has found herself. That is the configuration. That is the dimension the region has found herself. That is what it is. That is exactly what it is. So, I will call you. So that is the dimension the region finds herself. And of course, it will not be a game of a polarized region. Because you can see ECOWAS on their own, they have gathered in Abuja to discuss the reality of the region, what is actually happening in the region. And those of them in AES, of course, AES is also expanding. Take note of that. There are countries who are also working to join them. Chad is there trying to join. Togo is also trying to join. At least. So we are going to have a very tensed sub-region. Very tensed. And in so doing, some countries might be weakened more. Some countries might even be reshaped in terms of geography, what it used to be, demography, and all the rest of them. So I want to thank every single one of us for taking your time. We'll be going shortly to IPOBS program, space program, I mean to say, where we'll discuss, where people come and ask questions. Very, very important. So do have the best of your time. See you in the S program.